السلام عليك يا رسول الله. السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين. السلام عليك يا فاطمة الزهراء سيد نساء العالمين. السلام عليك يا حسن المجتبى. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله الحسين. السلام عليك يا علي بن حسين زين العابدين. السلام عليك يا محمد بن علي الباكر. السلام عليك يا جعفر بن محمد الصادق. السلام عليك يا موسى بن جعفر الكاظم. السلام عليك يا علي بن موسى الرضا. السلام عليك يا محمد التقي الجواد. السلام عليك يا علي بن محمد الهادي. السلام عليك يا حسن بن العسكري. السلام عليك يا حجة الله بن حسن يا سابق الزمان سيدي الأمان الأمان الأمان. السلام عليك يا خليفة الرحمن. السلام عليك يا شريك القرآن. السلام عليك يا كعبة الإيمان. السلام عليك يا إمام الإنس والجان ورحمة الله وبركاته.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Easily so. Yeah, it's not working. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ياسين والقرآن الحكيم إنك لمن المرسلين على صراط مستقيم. تنزيل العزيز الرحيم لتنذر قوما ما أنذر آباؤهم فهم غافلون لقد حق القول على أكثرهم فهم لا يؤمنون إنا جعلنا في أعناقهم أغلالا فهي إلى الأذقان فهم مقمحون وجعلنا من بين أيديهم سدا ومن خلفهم سدا فأغشيناهم فهم لا يبصرون وسواء عليهم أنذرتهم أم لم تنذرهم لا يؤمنون إنما تنذر من اتبع الذكر وخشي الرحمن بالغيب فبشره بمغفرة وأجر كريم إنا نحن نحيي الموتى ونكتب ما قدموا وآثارهم وكل شيء أحصيناه في إمام مبين واضرب لهم مثلا أصحاب القرية إذ جاءها المرسلون إذ أرسلنا إليهم اثنين فكذبوهما فأززنا بثالثا فقالوا إنا إليكم مرسلون قالوا ما أنتم إلا بشر مثلنا وما أنزل الرحمن من شيء إن أنتم إلا تكذبون قالوا ربنا يعلم إنا إليكم لمرسلون وما علينا إلا البلاغ المبين قالوا إنا تطيرنا بكم لئن لم تنتهوا لنرجمنكم وليمسنكم منا عذاب عليم قالوا طائركم معكم أئن ذكرتم بل أنتم قوم مسرفون وجاء من أقصى المدينة رجل يسعى قال يا قوم اتبعوا المرسلين اتبعوا من لا يسأل أجرا وهم مهتدون وما لي لا أعبد الذي فطرني وإليه ترجعون أتخذ من دونه آلهة إن يردنا الرحمن بضر لا تغني عني شفاعتهم شيئا ولا ينقذون إني إذا لفي ضلال مبين إني آمنت بربكم فاسمعون قيل ادخل الجنة قال يا ليت قومي يعلمون بما غفر لي ربي وجعلني من المكرمين وما أنزلنا على قومه من بعده من جند من السماء وما كنا منزلين إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم خامدون يا حسرة على العباد ما يأتيهم من رسول إلا كانوا به يستهزئون ألم يروا كما أهلكنا قبلهم من القرون أنهم إليهم لا يرجعون وإن كل لما جميع لدينا محضرون وآية لهم العرض الميتة أحييناها وأخرجنا منها هبا فمنه يأكلون وجعلنا فيها جنات من نخيل وعنب وفجرنا فيها من العيون ليأكلوا من ثمره وما عملته أيديهم أفلا يشكرون سبحان الذي خلق الأزواج كلها مما تنبت الأرض ومن أنفسهم ومما لا يعلمون وآية لهم الليل نسلخ منه النهار فإذا هم مظلمون والشمس تجري لمستقر لها ذلك تقدير العزيز العليم والقمر قدرناه منازل حتى عاد كالأرجون القديم لا الشمس ينبغي لها أن تدرك القمر ولا الليل سابق النهار وكل في فلك يسبحون وآية لهم أنا حملنا ذريتهم في الفلك المشحون وخلقنا لهم من مثله ما يركبون وإن نشاء نغرقهم فلا صريخ لهم ولا هم ينقذون إلا رحمة منا ومتاعا إلى حين وإذا قيل لهم اتقوا ما بين أيديكم وما خلفكم لعلكم ترحمون وما تأتيهم من آية من آيات ربهم إلا كانوا عنها معرضين وإذا قيل لهم أنفقوا مما رزقكم الله قال الذين كفروا للذين آمنوا أنطعم من لو يشاء الله أطعمه إن أنتم إلا في ضلال مبين ويقولون متى هذا الوعد إن كنتم صادقين ما ينظرون إلا صيحة واحدة تأخذهم وهم يخصمون فلا يستطيعون توصية ولا إلى أهلهم يرجعون ونفخ في السور فإذا هم من الأجداث إلى ربهم ينسلون قالوا يا ويلنا من بعثنا من مركدنا هذا ما وعد الرحمن وصدق المرسلون إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم جميع لدينا محضرون فاليوم لا تظلم نفس شيئا ولا تجزون إلا ما كنتم تعملون إن أصحاب الجنة اليوم في شغل فاكهون هم وأزواجهم في ظلال على الأرائك متكئون لهم فيها فاكهة ولهم ما يدعون سلام قولا من رب رحيم وامتازوا اليوم أيها المجرمون ألم أعهد إليكم يا بني آدم ألا تعبدوا الشيطان إنه لكم عدو مبين وأن اعبدوني هذا صراط مستقيم ولقد أضل منكم جبلا كثيرا أفلم تكونوا تعقلون هذه جهنم التي كنتم توعدون اصلوها اليوم بما كنتم تكفرون اليوم نختم على أفواههم وتكلمنا أيديهم وتشهد أرجلهم بما كانوا يكسبون ولو نشاء لتمسنا على أعينهم فاستبقوا الصراط فأنا يبصرون ولو نشاء لمسخناهم على مكانتهم فما استطاعوا مضيا ولا يرجعون ومن نعمره ننكس في الخلق أفلا يعقلون وما علمناه الشعر وما ينبغي له إن هو إلا ذكر وقرآن مبين لينذر من كان هيا ويهك الكون على الكافرين أولم يروا أنا خلقنا لهم مما عملت أيدينا أنعاما فهم لها مالكون وذللناها لهم فمنها ركوبهم ومنها يأكلون ولهم فيها منافع ومشارب أفلا يشكرون واتخذوا من دون الله آلهة لعلهم ينصرون لا يستطيعون نصرهم وهم لهم جند محضرون فلا يحزنك قولهم إنا نعلم ما يسرون وما يعلنون أولم يرى الإنسان أنا خلقناهم من نطفة فإذا هو خصيم مبين وضرب لنا مثلا ونسي خلقه قال من يحيي العظام وهي رميم قل يحييها الذي أنشأها أول مرة هو بكل خلق عليم الذي جعل لكم من الشجر الأخضر نارا فإذا أنتم منه توقدون أوليس الذي خلق السماوات والأرض بقادر على أن يخلق مثلهم بلى هو الخلاق العليم إنما أمره إذا أراد شيئا أن يقول له كن فيكون فسبحان الذي بيده ملكوت كل شيء وإليه ترجعون صدق الله العلي العظيم.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. عن جابر بن عبد الله الأنصاري عن فاطمة الزهراء عليها السلام بنت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم وقال سمعت فاطمة أنها قالت دخل علي أبي رسول الله في بعض الأيام فقال السلام عليك يا فاطمة فقلت عليك السلام قال إني أجد في بدني ضعفا فقلت له أعيذك بالله يا أبتاه من الضعف فقال يا فاطمة ائتيني بالكساء اليماني فغطيني به، فأتيته به وسرت أنظر إليه وإذا وجهه يتلألأ كأنه البدر في ليلة كمامه وكمالي. فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولدي الحسن قد أقبل وقال السلام عليك يا أماه، فقلت وعليك السلام يا قرة عيني وثمرة فؤادي. فقال يا أماه إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة جد رسول الله. فقلت نعم إن جدك تحت الكساء. فأقبل الحسن نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا جداه يا رسول الله، أتأذن لي أن أدخل معك تحت الكساء؟ فقال وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا صاحب حوزي قد أذنت لك، فدخل معه تحت الكساء. فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولدي الحسين قد أقبل وقال السلام عليك يا أماه، فقلت وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا قرة عيني وثمرة فؤادي. فقال لي يا أماه إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة جد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله. فقلت نعم إن جدك وأخاك تحت الكساء. فدنا الحسين نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا جده والسلام عليك يا من اختاره الله، أتأذن لي أن أكون معكما تحت الكساء؟ فقال وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا شافع أمتي قد أذنت لك، فدخل معهما تحت الكساء. فأقبل عند ذلك أبو الحسن علي بن أبي طالب وقال السلام عليك يا بنت رسول الله. فقلت وعليك السلام يا أبا الحسن ويا أمير المؤمنين. فقال يا فاطمة إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة أخي وابن أم رسول الله. فقلت نعم ها هو ما ولديك تحت الكساء. فأقبل علي نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا رسول الله، أتأذن لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء؟ وقال له وعليك السلام يا أخي ويا وسيي وخليفة وسائب لوائي، قد أذنت لك. فدخل علي تحت الكساء. ثم أتيت نحو الكساء وقلت السلام عليك يا أبتاه يا رسول الله، أتأذن لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء؟ فقال وعليك السلام يا بنتي ويا بزعتي، قد أذنت لك. فدخلت تحت الكساء. فلما اكتملنا جميعا تحت الكساء أخذ أبي رسول الله بطرفي الكساء وأومى بيده اليمنى إلى السماء وقال اللهم إن هؤلاء أهل بيتي وخاصة وهامتي، لحمهم لحمي ودمهم دمي، يؤلمني ما يؤلمهم ويحزنني ما يحزنهم. أنا حرب لمن حاربهم وسلم لمن سالمهم وعدو لمن عاداهم ومحب لمن أحبهم. إنهم مني وأنا منهم، فاجعل صلواتك وبركاتك ورحمتك وغفرانك ورضوانك علي وعليهم، واذهب عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. فقال الله عز وجل يا ملائكتي ويا سكان سماواتي، إني ما خلقت سماء مبنية ولا أرضا مدهية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مضيئة ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحرا يجري ولا فلكا يسري إلا في محبة هؤلاء الخمسة الذين هم تحت الكساء. فقال الأمين جبريل: يا ربي ومن تحت الكساء؟ فقال عز وجل: هم أهل بيت النبوة ومعدن الرسالة، هم فاطمة وأبوها وبعلها وبنوها. اللهم صل على محمد. فقال جبريل: يا ربي أتأذن لي أن أهبط إلى الأرض ليكون معهم سادسا؟ فقال الله: نعم قد أذنت لك. فهبط الأمين جبريل وقال: السلام عليك يا رسول الله. العلي الأعلى يقرئك السلام ويخصك بالتحية والإكرام ويقول لك وعزتي وجلالي: إني ما خلقت سماء مبنية ولا أرضا مدهية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مضيئة ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحرا يجري ولا فلكا يسري إلا لأجلكم ومحبتكم، وقد أذن لي أن أدخل معكم، فهل تأذن لي يا رسول الله؟ فقال رسول الله وعليك السلام: يا أمين وحي الله، إنه نعم قد أذنت لك. فدخل جبريل معنا تحت الكساء. فقال لي أبي: إن الله قد أوحى إليكم يقول: إنما يريد الله ليذهب عنكم الرجس أهل البيت ويطهركم تطهيرا. اللهم صل على محمد. فقال علي لأبي: يا رسول الله، أخبرني ما لجلوسنا هذا تحت الكساء من الفضل عند الله. فقال النبي: والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفاني بالرسالة نجيا، ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض، وفيه جمع من شيعتنا ومحبينا، إلا ونزلت عليهم الرحمة وحفت بهم الملائكة واستغفرت لهم إلى أن يتفرقوا. فقال علي: إذن والله فزنا وفاز شيعتنا ورب الكعبة. فقال النبي ثانيا: يا علي، والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفاني بالرسالة نجيا، ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض، وفيه جمع من شيعتنا ومحبينا، وفيهم مهموم إلا وفرج الله همه، ولا مغموم إلا وكشف الله غمه، ولا طالب حاجة إلا وقضى الله حاجته. فقال علي: إذن والله فزنا وسعدنا، وكذلك شيعتنا فازوا وسعدوا في الدنيا والآخرة ورب الكعبة. الله من أدى الفاتحة.
صلاة على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل. वफा जिसका पढ़े कलमा उसे अब्बास कहते हैं, जिसे सजदे करे सजदा उसे अब्बास कहते हैं। جو ہے شبیر کی قوت علی کو ناز ہے جس پر، جو ہے شبیر کی قوت علی کو ناز ہے جس پر، جسے زہرا کہے بیٹا اسے عباس کہتے ہیں، وفا جس کا پڑھے کلمہ اسے عباس کہتے ہیں۔ اٹھے طوفان چلے آندھی زمیں گردش کرے پھر بھی، اٹھے طوفان چلے آندھی زمیں گردش کرے پھر بھی، رہے اونچا علم جس کا اسے عباس کہتے ہیں، وفا جس کا پڑھے کلمہ اسے عباس کہتے ہیں۔ وہ پیاسا پیاس نے جس کی کیا سیراب دریا کو، وہ پیاسا پیاس نے جس کی کیا سیراب دریا کو، ہے جس کی پیاس بھی دریا اسے عباس کہتے ہیں، وفا جس کا پڑھے کلمہ اسے عباس کہتے ہیں۔ لگا اے جو بغیر تیغ کے انبار لاشوں کے، لگائے جو بغیر تیغ کے انبار لاشوں کے، جو ہے بیکار شجاعت کا اسے عباس کہتے ہیں، وفا جس کا پڑھے کلمہ اسے عباس کہتے ہیں۔ جو تھا شبیر کا خادم مگر سب صاحبان دل، جو تھا شبیر کا خادم مگر سب صاحبان دل، اسے آقا اسے مولا اسے عباس کہتے ہیں، وفا جس کا پڑھے کلمہ اسے अब्बास कहते हैं, जिसे सजदे करे सजदा उसे अब्बास कहते हैं। सल्लल्लाहु अला मुहम्मद व आलि मुहम्मद।
Sheikh Bilal, Dr. Dungersi, respected elders, brothers and sisters in Iman, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. On behalf of the Sijni Managing Committee, we would like to congratulate you all on the birth of our 9th Imam, Imam Muhammad at-Taqi alayhi salam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Tonight's Surah Yasin has been sponsored for the Ithal Thawab of the Marhumeens that are displayed on the screen. Let us all recite Surah Fatiha for all Marhumeen. Bismillah. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. We regret to inform you of the death of Marhuma Aminabai Ghulam Raza Jivraj, who passed away today in New York. Marhuma was the wife of Marhum Malim Ghulam Raza and mother of Mazahir Jivraj and Riaz Jivraj of Orlando. Marhuma was the sister of brother Ahmad Alu and Jafar Alu of New York. She was also the mother-in-law of Suhaila Jivraj of New York and Fursia Jivraj of Orlando. Marhuma was also the grandmother of Muhammad, Sarah, Imran, and Zainab Jivraj. Surah Fatiha, Sadaqah, and Namaza Hadiya Mayat is kindly requested for the departed soul, of which we are requesting our community members to remain after the program. The program for tomorrow will start at 9 a.m. with Surah Yasin, a short majlis, followed by burial at Washington Memorial at 11 a.m. We will leave the center by 10 a.m. tomorrow. May the Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant the departed soul maghfirah and a place among His chosen ones, and grant the family sabr jameel to bear this irreplaceable loss. Let's recite Surah Fatiha. Lastly, please join me in reciting the ayah of Amma Yujib 5 times for all those who are sick here and around the world. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Amma yujibul mustarriza da'u wa yakshifu su. 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 Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Please recite aloud salawat for Sheikh Bilal. For Muhammad wa ala Muhammad salawat. Allah.
رحم الله من يقرأ سورة الفاتحة. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ربي اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي الحمد لله رب العالمين ثم الصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا وحبيب إله العالمين أبي القاسم محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين واللعنة على أعدائهم أجمعين من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين أما بعد فقد قال الله تعالى في محكم كتابه الحكيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. Your second salawat for love of Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. And your loudest salawat for ta'jeel faraj sahib al-asr wa al-zaman. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. أسعد الله أيامنا وأيامكم بذكر ولادة إمامنا محمد بن علي الجواد عليه السلام. صلوا على محمد. اللهم صل على محمد. This very famous verse that we recite comes from Surah Ahzab, the 33rd chapter of the Holy Quran, verse number 56. And this verse invites the mu'mineen to participate in the benediction upon the Holy Prophet. The benediction of the Holy Prophet, as is described in this verse, is very particular and very specific. Why? First, it gives us the introduction that Allah and the angels are sending the salam and raising the status of the Prophet. This concept that Allah begins with Himself and then indicates that the malaika are performing this action show us that the status of the Prophet is not pending upon our approval or our submission to his authority, but rather that Allah has raised him already to a great level. When Allah invites us, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu sallu alayhi, that those of you who have faith, send blessings upon him, it's not because that the Prophet is reliant upon our salawat for his status to be elevated, but rather it's so that we are the ones who are partners with Allah and acknowledge what Allah wants, and we are the party of Allah that submits to the authority that Allah has established. Which is why Allah says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu sallu alayhi wa sallimu taslima. This second half, after telling us to send salawat upon him, says to submit to him in absolute submission. Alaykum salam. Submit to the Prophet in absolute submission. This concept of what does it mean to have an absolute submission to the Holy Prophet was something that from the time of Rasulullah through the times of the A'immah, people would question. And the explanation overwhelmingly told us that when the process of giving benediction, it's to submit to the command of the Prophet, and the command of the Prophet is that which is embodied in the example of the A'immah. Today when we look at who are the A'immah and what is their status and the submission to the authority of the A'immah, there's no question amongst us, of all those who are present sitting here, that there are 12 Imams, their authority over us is absolute, and that we have the responsibility of complete submission to the Imam and the authority of Allah on this earth. And that if the ayah is telling us submit to the Holy Prophet and submit to his complete authority, we know that to submit to the Prophet's authority is to submit to his hujjah and his Imam on this earth in authority. There's no disagreement. But in the history of Islam and in the history of Shia school of thought, it wasn't always so clear. Sometimes it was really hard to determine who is this authority of Allah on this earth? Who is this Imam? And one of the key inflection points in history that both was very difficult for the Shia to determine who the Imam was and then clarified the position of the Imam was this 9th Imam Muhammad ibn Ali al-Jawad alayhi salam. The Shia at the time of the birth of the Imam were going through a variety of major difficulties. There was a lot of problems that weren't immediately solved by the presence of the 9th Imam. Let's take a look at some of these, right? And we'll mention some history and some aqaid to explain, to have ma'rifat of why this is a very, very special and important wiladat that we're here to celebrate. When you take a look and you see that first off, that after our 7th Imam, the followers of the Ja'fari school of thought had begun to split. The Waqifiyya had come about and said that no, that the imamate has stopped after Imam Musa ibn Ja'far. Others who came out that we are Fatahiyya, we follow Abdullah ibn Aftah. There were Ismailiyya, there were others. Sects started to begin and form, and Imam Rada came forward and established his position as the imam of the time. However, the people of the time weren't willing to accept his imamate, some of them. Why? They said an imam is someone who is complete from every aspect, and you, though you may be the grandson of the Holy Prophet, you don't have any kids. How is it possible for an imam to have no kids and still be an imam? That means that the man is imperfect if he can't have children. If he can't have children, you're imperfect, therefore you can't be the imam of the time. Imam Rada had no children until the age of 45. There are discussions of where even the true Shia and followers were confused by this, where they would come to the Imam and say, Yabna Rasulullah, after you then, who will be the Imam? Because they knew the danger of the life of the Imam was in. They were like, will it be your cousin? Imam says, no. Will it be your uncle? Will it be your brother? Will it be one of your other relatives? Describe to us who will be the Imam after you so that we know that if we lose you, we know where Imamate will go. And Imam would simply explain and say that it will be my son. I said, you don't have a son. You're 45. You don't have children. And Imam would insist that there will be a son and he will be the one who is the Imam. The Imam explained, Imam Rada explained, and he said, ما كان ولد في دين الإسلام أعظم بركة من هذا الولد. That I will have a son, and that son will be, there will be no one born in the religion of Islam who is a greater bounty for the religion of Islam than my son. And people would be like, how is this possible? To such an extent that when Imam Jawad is born, and his Wiladat takes place that we're here to celebrate, you would imagine it would be a moment of celebration. But the Shia look at Imam al-Jawad from amongst some of them, and they look at him and they say, you're not telling us the truth, this isn't your child. They said, he doesn't look like you. To the extent that Imam Rada had to call the genealogists who then came and proved that this is the son of Imam Rada because the Shia weren't willing to accept it. The difficulties of this time went even further. Why? Because when Imam Rada becomes the Wali al-Ahad of Ma'mun, and then Ma'mun comes forward and says, this is my successor, this is the inheritor, we have honored the children of Sayyidah Fatima that they will take the authority after us. Ma'mun then turns around and assassinates Imam Rada. And to cover his tracks for this assassination, he takes this young boy, Imam Jawad, who is still a very young boy, and makes him his son-in-law and marries him to his daughter. Now both the Shia and the non-Shia are confused. Is Ma'mun a good guy? Is Ma'mun a bad guy? Is this child actually going to be the Imam? Is he not going to be the Imam? The apparent difficulty was that this child was left alone at the age of no more than 5. And I said, how can he be that he's going to be the successor of Imam Rada when Imam Rada isn't there to teach him? The problems went even further. They said, this doesn't look like an Imam. How can he be an Imam? What do you mean he doesn't look like an Imam? You see, every Imam prior to Imam Rada entered the position of Imamat in maturity. They had a haiba and a presence that amongst the grown men they had an authority and a position. Imam al-Jawad, in some narrations, is not more than 7 years old when he becomes the Imam of the time. Or 8 at maximum. He said, this is going to be our Imam? And the Shia wanted to run away from this. They wanted to refuse this acceptance. Being a Shia wasn't always something that what's easy and comes in front of you is what's right. Rather, at times, it was very difficult to submit to the truth and reality. Even the people of the house of Imam Jawad didn't believe in his authority. How? There's a letter that explains the authority of our 9th Imam from the 8th Imam after the 8th Imam was moved to Khurasan. He says, O my son, O Abu Ja'far, I have heard that the people of the house do not let you leave from Bab al-Kabir, they take you from Bab al-Saghir. What that means is that there is a main entrance to the house. The main entrance of the house is not where they let Imam Jawad leave from. Whenever Imam Jawad has to leave the house, they go to the back entrance, the little door, and they take him from there. And Imam Rada explains, he says, this is because of their bukhl. because of their stinginess, that they imagine that people will be able to manipulate you and abuse you and take from you something that they have no right to take. But don't let them do this. Go from the main door at all times. And remember that if it is from one of your male relatives, ensure that you give them no less than 50 dinars if they ask you. 50 dinars is not a little amount of money. 50 pieces of gold is a significant amount of money. And it says that if it is from the women, from your aunts, give them at least 25 dinars or pieces of gold. And if you give them more, that is your choice. The explanation that the Imam is establishing is that the actions of Imam al-Jawad from a child, that these people who look at him and think of him as less or incapable are not valid and not true, but rather that the Imam is the absolute authority and his actions will be that are established by the Imam prior to him, not by anyone else. All of these issues that were going on, there were even more. That they said that we believe in the ismat of the Imam. This is a contemporary issue that came about. They said that we understood the knowledge of the Imam comes from his father, but when Al-Jawad came to us, we lost the ability to believe that how can this one have the knowledge that's necessary? How can this one be an authority on the earth at the age of 7 and 8? You want us to put everything in authority behind him? The Shia rejected. Forget the others. The Shia rejected. One of the most difficult uphill battles in the religion for us to follow at that time was, where is the authority of Allah? We had gone through difficulties before. For example, when Harun threatened to kill the successor of our 6th Imam, it was a difficult issue. But what happened? The i'jaz of Imam al-Kadhim, the status of Imam al-Kadhim, the speeches of Imam al-Kadhim, the willingness of people to approach Imam al-Kadhim and ask, brought the Shia back to this path. But when they saw a 7-year-old, an 8-year-old, they said, what am I supposed to ask him? How do I respect his authority? How do I believe that this is the authority of Allah on this earth? But the beauty of imamat was such, the status of imamat was such, the responsibility of imamat was such, that by the instruction of our 8th Imam, and by the character of our 9th Imam, that all those who could overlook the apparent difficulties of this concept, when they saw the truth and the reality that the Imam possessed, they didn't care about the optics anymore, and they knew where the authority of Allah remains on this earth. And anyone who submitted to the authority of Imam al-Jawad remained on the authority of Ahlul Bayt until the imamat of the 12th Imam, Sahib al-Asr wa Zaman, Ajjallah. Salli ala Muhammad. Which is why, when Imam Rada makes the statement that there is no child born in this religion who is a greater bounty, a barakah in the religion of Islam than this son of mine, the birth of Imam Jawad removed many of the stereotypes and expectations and ensured that people knew the true values that they need to look at when they look for an imam. That an imam is the son of an imam. That an imam is ma'soom. That an imam possesses the knowledge that's necessary. That an imam cannot be influenced or bought out by the khalifa of the time. That no one can stop an imam's authority. So that instead of looking for something that's beautiful, attractive, easy for them to accept and absorb, they had to go back to the intellectual process of submitting to what it means to be the authority of Allah on this earth. You see, even the discussion about, for example, the ismat of the imam. There are people who attack our religion and say that you only came up with the idea that an imam is ma'soom, is sinless, when a 7-year-old came and assumed the position of imamat. You had to come up with a clause to justify how can the 7-year-old have an authority on this earth, and how can a 7-year-old be the authority of Allah on this earth. So you came up with a clause within your religion and said, no, every imam is sinless. Those who look at us and attack us on this basis didn't look at and pay attention to the fundamentals of what was laid out from the beginning. They didn't pay attention to when, for example, our 6th Imam made the statement, we the Ahlul Bayt do not sin because we see the reality of the knowledge of a sin. They didn't look at the reality of when our Prophet would explain about if you see Ali ibn Abi Talib go into one valley and see the rest of humanity go into another valley, follow Ali, do not follow anyone else. That the explanation that Ali ibn Abi Talib will never make a mistake, that's why you follow Ali, even if all of humanity disagrees with him. They didn't pay attention to the history of Islam. When our Prophet would say that هذا حسن والحسين إمامان هذه الأمة لو قام أو قعد, that these two children, Because remember, in the time of Rasulullah, Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein were not more than 7. But how does Rasulullah introduce this 6 and 7-year-old? He says, these 2 sons of mine are the imams of this ummah, whether they stand or they sit, whether they fight or they make peace. The Prophet didn't say they will someday be the imams of this ummah. He said, فِعْلًا هَذَا هُوَ الْإِمَامِ. If Rasulullah is introducing us that the concept of imamat can be established in a child of 6 and 7, and that they are the authority over you in whatever decision they make, then why are we questioning when Imam Jawad has to take the apparent position of authority? The acceptance of the ismat and the imamat of Imam Jawad prepared us as an ummah that when our imam of the time becomes the imam at the age of 5, no one questioned it, that it's possible for an imam to be present at 5. They even questioned Imam Rada. That Imam Rada, when he had Imam Jawad in his lap as a 3-year-old, and they said, who will be the next imam? The imam says, this child in my lap will be the next imam. The Shia question, وَلَوْ هُوَ عِنْدَهُ 3 سَنَوَاتٍ, though he only has 3 years of age at that time. Imam Rada, frustrated, says, why do you have a problem with that? You can accept that Isa ibn Maryam became the authority of Allah on this earth when he spoke from the cradle, when he was not even 3 years old. But now you doubt the authority of Allah on this earth when Imam al-Jawad is the one that I'm telling you that him at 3 is the authority? In history, and in our philosophy, it becomes very important and very significant that today, if we have confidence of who an imam is, and that we come here to celebrate this imam, it is by the barakat of this imam that the attributes of an imam were made clear for us when we wouldn't be able to see the imam, when we wouldn't be able to interact with the imam. That we can recognize and know that an imam has to be present, and what are his attributes. Whether we take a look and we see how, for example, Imam al-Jawad defends the religion of Islam in the court of Ma'mun, whether we see his teachings being an absolute source of guidance for all of the people of the time, whether we take a look today and we understand that the tafsir of the Quran, the knowledge of fiqh, the knowledge of fundamentals of who is Allah were established through the teachings of Imam al-Jawad, the most significant for us Shia was the process that we knew that the authority of the Imam, though it may not be something that we want, Allah, where He dictates it, is the best position for it to be. And when people have a hard time accepting a 7-year-old authority of Allah on this earth, we see Imam Jawad and we say that there can be no doubt in his authority. It can't be possible for us to question this. The examples of how this necessity of using our intellect to go through and understand who the authority of Allah is and what the authority of Allah is, not simply restricted to this dawr of ismat of the imamat and the dawr of our 7th imam. Rather, the use of our intellect to understand the position of the imam continues and affects us today. And it affects us very practically. These lessons of applying the intellect and going back to the fundamentals of what defines an imam that were laid out in Imam al-Jawad make a difference and impact today. I'll give you 2 examples. Everybody's okay? Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Sallu ala Muhammad. The first of these that pertains to our 12th imam. How do we know the imam was ever born? There are those who actually come about and they question, was the imam ever born? Because the Ahl Sunnah say he hasn't been born yet. And then others say that the riwayat, the narrations that we have us that tell us about the birth of the 12th imam, they have some doubts in their chain of narrators. And these are not normal people. These are some big ulama who make this claim and make this statement. But it's the same thing. It's the same process. That if you look at, for example, one incident, one event in history and want it to be the absolute proof of everything that you want to know, it's not possible. We have to look at a variety of pieces of information that, yes, we have a narration. There may be some weakness in its chain of narrators, but let's see how it corroborates with the rest of the information that we possess. One, we know that there are 12 imams from the beginning of the time of Rasulullah until all of the imams, they always narrate the presence of 12. They even gave us the names of the 12 that we have in many narrations, that they will be present. We also have the aspect of understanding how, when we look at the Quran and the presence of the authority of Allah at every phase of this earth, that it's not possible for this earth to exist without Allah's authority to be present. Further than that, we take a look and we see the narrations of, for example, many ulama and many people throughout history who indicated that they have met the Imam, that they were guided by the Imam. Were they all liars for 1,000 years? When we start piecing together this information, we can say that while this one moment wasn't within itself what I wanted to happen, and it doesn't possess the narrations that I want to have, I can look throughout history and find the authentication that enforces and supports any weakness that I see in one narration. The same way that we mentioned, the ismat of the Imam was not established as a concept to prove that Imam Jawad was the Imam. No, it was established and proved from the time of Rasulullah going forward that whoever the Imam is has to be sinless and perfect. The same way we look and we see that the 12th Imam, and to know that the 12th Imam is present, doesn't have to be proven that, oh, this one hadith that when he's born has to be perfect. No. Look at the history of proofs and ideology that's necessary for us to come to the conclusion, and then accept it. This fundamental of using our thoughts and our mind to understand where is the authority of Allah, we take for granted. But this taking it for granted is a very dangerous thing. Because in our history, when it was taken for granted, people refused to acknowledge the authority of the Imam. And they got lost on this path. We have to be people, when we come to celebrate, we acknowledge and we say, yes, this was the Imam who began at 7. And after him, the next Imam began at 6. And after him, the final Imam began at the age of 5. And we know that because we can see the perfection of the example in the position of Imam al-Jawad. That he laid out and made it possible for us to know that the authority of the Imam is not something that looks attractive to me, that yes, it will be a grown man who will have all this information for years, we will spend time with him before he will come and express his authority. No, at times when the world is in a state of difficulty, when the Imamate is in a state of difficulty, Allah will introduce the Imam to us in a format that is appropriate for Islam, though it may be not something that we like. The other place where all of this becomes relevant is in our dawr, in our time today. We're living in a very awkward period of time, a very unique period of time. There are a number of different things that are affecting us now. One of them is the separation from the Imam, that we don't have the Imam in front of us. We don't have the ability to speak to the Imam. We don't have the ability to ask the Imam whenever we want. He's not on WhatsApp, I've checked. This affects us. It creates a difficulty for us. The second thing that affects us is the nature of the fact that we have now transitioned to the English language. This is a problem. Let me explain why. In the English language, the process of scholarship and oratory practice is not more than 30, it can't be more than 30 years old. And as a consequence, those who are participants in this process of oratory in the English language are young. And the peak of English oratory, the people who are sitting at that peak are not older than my age. Not more than 40. That's unusual. That's abnormal. It's not a good thing. You see, whether you look at Urdu, Farsi, Gujarati, Arabic, the peak of oratory and scholarship are those who have spent their entire life in the surface of Islam before they become the top of the oratory practice. The ulama, when you think about in Farsi, that people follow and listen to and pay attention to. In Arabic, those who have the authority that when they say something, the entire ummah moves. Even in Urdu, even in Gujarati, are old men who have spent their life and proven themselves for decades before they got that opportunity to be the ones to control the entire ummah in that language. English, we don't have anyone that old. We don't have that history. We don't have that level of scholarship. And that becomes a problem. That because we don't have anyone with 30 years, 40, 50 years of infrastructure and work in the language, we wind up looking for someone who has less than that. The third problem that we have right now is the media culture that we live in. This is when you look at the analysis of what media is today, there's a conversation that says that this is the golden age of television. And then you have on the balance of it is the impact and the explosion of social media. We don't know the consequences of social media yet. We really don't. But it's here. It's now. It's happening now. And as a consequence of that, and as a consequence of how television and how the consumption of media has shifted from books that are boring to TV shows that are exciting, that the use of technology has made the ability for them to imagine anything and to put it in front of us, we want to be entertained, want to have some fun. This shortage of our attention span, this availability of fantastic media and content impacts us. It changes our behavior. It changes our expectation of how we should interact with everything around us. And it impacts us now in this community when we talk about who sits on this pulpit. Who has the right and the responsibility to preach to our community? How do we validate that person and give them the credibility that they have the ability to take control of our community and to speak to our community? We can't look at what's entertaining. We can't look at what's attractive, or we fall back into that trap of those Shias in the dawr of Imam al-Jawad. When they looked at Imam al-Jawad, they said, this can't be. Do you know why they checked his genealogy? Because Imam al-Jawad was very fair-skinned. And Imam al-Jawad was not as fair-skinned. They said, how can it be possible? When they saw a child, they said, these uncles of Imam Rada, these brothers of Imam Rada, these uncles of Imam al-Jawad are much more elegant. They're much more beautiful. They're much more attractive. Why aren't we following them? Why are we following a 7-year-old? It became a problem. And right now, we are going into that same issue that we have to be very conscious to revert back to the fundamentals. The fundamentals of saying, who has the right and the authority to sit and to preach to us? Who has the right and the responsibility? It's not going to be based on attractiveness. It's going to be based on the quality of content. Someone who has that character, someone who has that authenticity, that they have invested their time to have this authority. This isn't something new. Rather, look at the history of the Madhab Ja'fari and you'll find that this has been going on for a long time. Over 1,000 years ago, the Hawza was established in the city of Baghdad. When there was conflict between the various sects at that time, and the Hawza was attacked, Shaykh at-Tusi made the decision to shift the Hawza from the city of Baghdad to the city of Ghari. You all know what the city of Ghari is? This is like a salawat question. If you know the answer to this one, I'll be very impressed. What's the city of Ghari? Najaf. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Sallu ala Muhammad. The name Najaf itself, Na means water, and Jaffa means dried up. Najaf is the place where water dried up. The place where water dried up, the other name of that city is known as Ghari. And that's the city of where we find the grave of Imam Ali, which we call Najaf today popularly, but one of its other names is Ghari. Shaykh at-Tusi, over 1,000 years ago, believed and established that the school of learning of Islam should be in a comfortable place where you have nothing to worry about except your studies. And that's why the Hawza was based in the capital of Islam, was based in the city of Baghdad. So that if you wanted to study Islam, all the other things were convenient and easy. But when the strife and the conflicts caused the Hawza to be attacked and we lost a history, a dearth of knowledge, and a library of over 80,000 books was lost to us, he shifted it to the city of Ghari. And he established the example of saying that from now on, we will keep the Hawza in such a place that no one will come to except the one who only wants the knowledge of Ahlul Bayt. There will be no conveniences here except for the one who only wants Ahlul Bayt, and for them we will build this. That philosophy, since back then, persisted to where, for example, many ulama still argue and consider the point and ask the question, should we make the Shia theology, Shia ideology, the knowledge about the Ahlul Bayt, something easy for people to process and have access to? Or should it be something only that those who truly love Ahlul Bayt and want guidance can have access to? That you have to work hard for it, that it will be uncomfortable, that it will take difficulty to be someone who truly has access to this knowledge. Do you know where they got this idea from? From the example of Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. Imam Ali, when he established his khilafat, established complete justice. The justice was such that as soon as he took control of the treasury that had a great amount of wealth of the mu'mineen, he made it the responsibility to give out the wealth to the mu'mineen, all of them. And because the previous khulafa had been amassing wealth, there was a great amount of wealth where every single Muslim in the ummah was given 6 dinars of gold. First thing Imam Ali did, every Muslim received 6 dinars of gold, man or woman. Do you know what happened? When they lined up to receive it, it would happen that a man standing there to receive his right from Baytul Mal was standing next to a person that had been his slave even yesterday. And he looked and he said, this one was my slave yesterday and I freed him. Today he's going to get the same as me? And the religion of Islam, as Imam Ali taught with justice, said, yes, he has the same right you do. A woman would look at another woman and say, I am from a noble household. You mean to tell me and this woman who is an orphan, who has no resources, who has nothing, who is a servant in houses, we're the same? And Imam Ali said, yes, every Muslim will receive the same share. The consequence of that justice of Imam Ali was that opponents came out of thin air to fight him and say that no, we worked hard to attain the status that we possess now, we're not going to give it up. And you saw him spend now the next 4 years and 9 months of his khilafat busy in civil wars. The initiation of those civil wars was the justice of Imam Ali. People didn't want to be treated the same. The opposition to the justice of Imam Ali was such that when he becomes shaheed, the Ahl Sunnah write, at the shahadat of Ali ibn Abi Talib, there were not 40 people alive who loved Ali ibn Abi Talib because of the severity of his justice. The explanation from that moment forward is that if we want to be the followers of that Ali ibn Abi Talib, if we want to be the people who follow the true religion of Islam, it's never going to be an easy path. It's going to take hard work. It's going to be difficult. It will be things that are difficult and uncomfortable. But we have to stick to the principles of what Islam wants us to do, and to ensure that we never get confused by any of this situation is why our 8th Imam introduced, and he says, there is no greater barakah in the religion of Islam than this son of mine, Muhammad ibn Ali al-Jawad alayhi salam. We need to look at the Wiladat of Imam Jawad and the proof of the authority of Imam al-Jawad, though it may not have been marketable and attractive, as a sign that we will follow the truth even if no one else likes it. We will go through the difficulty of taking the responsibility on ourselves, not looking for the attractiveness and the ease and the convenience, but the hard work that we have to put in. Which is why, when I mention this, that this is a contemporary issue that we have, each one of us, myself included, when we come to this majlis, we come and we think to ourselves, what am I going to get? Or if the person is eloquent enough to give me something. The thought process needs to shift. That I came here, I need something. I'm going to take it. Not will you give it to me, but I'm going to ensure that my time here is well spent. That something functional comes about from this conversation. That I will work harder for myself, because it is my responsibility. Our job is to create the resources as a community, and it's each individual's job not to look for the convenience and the pleasure or the entertainment. That's not anybody's fault. It's the reality of the time that we live in. But to focus on the truth and look for the truth no matter how hard it is to find. Because that was one of the signatures of this imamate of our 9th Imam, was that it was very hard for people to determine where is the truth. But the truth was there. And we are here to celebrate because we were able to attach ourselves to that truth. And we are here to celebrate that we know that we will do the right thing no matter how difficult it is, because once it was difficult before and we have had the barakah of being attached to goodness, we should never separate from it. ندعوك باسمك العظيم الأعظم الأعز الأجل الأكرم. Raise our hands and call out 10 times by the barakat of Imam al-Jawad. Ya Allah, Ya Allah, Ya Allah, Ya Allah, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, Ya Allah, Ya Allah, Ya Allah, Ya Allah. Ya Mahmud بحق محمد. يا أعلى بحق علي. يا فاطر السماوات بحق فاطمة. يا محسن بحق الحسن. يا قديم الأحسان بحق الحسين. Ya Allah, by the rights of Imam al-Jawad, accept this small ibadat from us. Ya Allah, give the thawab of this majlis to Marhuma, Maghfura, Amina Bai, Jivraj, and all of our marhumin and all those who are in need of dua. Oh Allah, we have gathered here with hajat by the right of the mention of the azamat of Babul Murad, Imam al-Jawad. Fulfill all of our hajat. Oh Allah, keep our children on the upright path of Ali Muhammad. Oh Allah, give us the tawfiq to follow the example of Ali Muhammad in all of our lives. Oh Allah, those who are suffering through insecurity and difficulty, Ya Allah, give aman to the mu'mineen wherever they are. Oh Allah, those amongst our communities, our families that are suffering through sickness and disease, Ya Allah, give shafa'ah to the mu'mineen wherever they are. Oh Allah, hasten the reappearance of Sahib al-Zaman. Make us and our Shia from the upright supporters of Sahib al-Zaman. Entitle us to the ziyarat of Aba Abdullah in this world and the shafa'ah of Aba Abdullah in the hereafter. With one surah Fatiha, 3 times surah Ikhlas, لأرواح المؤمنين والمؤمنات, with your loudest of salawat ala Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
أفضل الصلاة محمد وآل محمد. يا راكبا نحو المدينة قاصدا مولد سلامي للنبي محمد وكل السلام عليك يا علم الهدى. يا نبي سلام عليكم. يا علي سلام عليكم. حسنین و فاطمہ پر صلوات اللہ علیکم یا نبی. یا علی سلام علیکم. حسنین و فاطمہ پر صلوات اللہ علیکم. یا محمد نام پیارا عرش پر حق نے پکارا. سچ پیمبر ہے ہمارا. صلوات اللہ علیکم یا نبی. یا علی سلام علیکم. حسنین و فاطمہ پر صلوات اللہ علیکم. تم حبیب کی بریا ہو. تم رسول ہو ہمارے. تم ہمارے پیشوا ہو. صلوات الله عليكم يا نبي سلام يا علي سلام عليكم حسنين وفاطمة پر صلوات الله عليكم مشکل ہمیں پری ہے مشکل کشا تمہیں ہو یا مظہر العجائب یہ وقت آوری ہے یا نبی سلام یا علی سلام علیکم حسنین و فاطمہ پر صلوات اللہ علیکم حشر میں جب کہ ہو آنا تو ہمیں نہ بھول جانا ہم کو دوزخ سے بچانا صلوات اللہ علیکم یا نبی سلام یا علی سلام علیکم حسنین و فاطمہ پر صلوات اللہ علیکم افضل الصلاة محمد وآل محمد الہی ببیمار داشت بلا جو بیمار ہو جلد پاوے شفا الہی برائے امام زمان ہمیں حول معاشر سے دے تو امان قیامت کو معشور رہو با علی اٹھے قبر سے کہ ہم یا علی ہے پانچونوں مل جہاں داتان احمد ولی زیرا و حسن شبیر سلے تا امام زمان شبیر سلے تا امام زمان ایک ایک پہ صدا صلوات کے اس پہ نثار گوہر جو نبی بلند صفات ہوئے صلوات صلوات و سلام یا امام زمان فرما و ظهور یا امام زمان صلوات زیارت امام حسین.
Assalamu alaikum. Just a quick reminder that after ziyarah, namaz Hadiya Mayat will be taking place in the women's side for Marhuma Amina Bai Jivraj. So please feel free to proceed that way after ziyarah. Oh, my apologies. Just namaz Mayat. So please proceed to the women's side after ziyarah. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم السلام عليك يا رسول الله يا نبي الله السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين يا علي بن أبي طالب السلام عليك يا فاطمة الزهراء سيدتي نساء العالمين السلام عليك يا حسن بن علي المجتبى السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله يا حسين بن علي الشهيد بكربلاء السلام عليك يا علي بن الحسين زين العابدين السلام عليك يا محمد بن علي الباقر السلام عليك يا جعفر بن محمد الصادق السلام عليك يا موسى بن جعفر الكاظم السلام عليك يا علي بن موسى الرضا السلام عليك يا محمد بن علي الجواد السلام عليك يا علي بن محمد الهادي السلام عليك يا حسن بن علي الأسكري السلام عليك يا حجة الله يا ابن الحسن يا صاحب الزمان السلام عليك يا خليفة الرحمن السلام عليك يا كعبة الإيمان السلام عليك يا إمام الإنس والجان ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Mu'mineen, one reminder for what was previously announced. Tomorrow's program will start at 9 o'clock here with Surah Yasin, a short majlis, ziyarat, and then we will proceed to the cemetery. This is a tentative program right now. Unless if there are any changes, we'll make the announcements tomorrow morning via Newswire. But otherwise, right now we're scheduled to leave here no later than 10 o'clock to be at the cemetery by 11. Thank you. And one more thing, it is highly recommended to give sadaqah in the name of the marhuma. Those who wish to give any sadaqah, please hand them over to me and we'll make sure that they get over to the needy person by tomorrow, soon after the marhuma is buried.